Welcome everyone to Unit 8, which is Data Consolidation. Now, what data consolidation is when you have many sheets in between. For example, you might have a P&L by month, and then what you want to do is sum up all of those P&L tabs into a consolidated tab. So let's quickly create a scenario by creating a bunch of new tabs. And we're going to quickly replicate this by grouping the tabs, which we talked about in the intermediate course. And now whatever change we make in here will be replicated across all tabs. So if you go revenue, COGS, wages, fixed, EBITDA, and then we go rand between 1,000 and 10,000, and just drag that down, and then go equals that, minus that, minus that, minus that. Yes. Okay, so now if we look through each of our tabs, we can see that the format has been copied across all of our different tabs. So has the formula. So I just random numbers. Okay, so the first thing is these are our P&Ls by month. Now we want to create a summary sheet. I'm just going to hit divider quickly so we know what our source P&Ls are. Like so. I'm just going to color that. So now I know that every tab to the right of that one is our source data that we want to consolidate. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is create a summary tab over here. I'm going to call it summary. Now I want this to be in the same format, like so. I'm going to zoom in a bit as well so you can see it a little bit easier. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to sum up. So we've got July, August, September, October, all the way up to June the next year. So we've got a full financial year of monthly data. And now I want to sum up the financial year, which is the sum of all of those tabs. So I want to go equals revenue, this one, plus this one. So we can do that for each of our tabs. And it's going to look like this. It's going to be quite a slow process. You can do that, but I don't recommend it, especially if you have thousands of tabs. It's going to take you all day to sum it up like this. Okay, now what we're going to do instead is we're going to use consolidation. Now the easiest way to do that is with an array formula. It's called a 3D array formula. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to sum an individual cell like so. So we're going to sum C2, but I'm going to tell Excel to sum it across all of those tabs like that. Okay, so see how I've selected a range of sheets. It's going from sheet 1 to sheet 3 in cell C2. Now all we have to do is add a sum in there as well and do a Control Shift Enter. Now you'll notice, let me just zoom in there for you. You'll notice that if I press Enter, the correct way to do it is press Control Shift Enter, because that creates an array. So you can see there's little squiggly brackets right next to the formula over there. And as soon as I press Enter, it goes away. Now you don't need it, but it's best practice to do that, because technically what we're doing is an array. As you can see, we've got the colon in there, so it's selecting a range or an array of sheets, and it's just pulling that number there. So that's a much quicker way of actually going through and summing up each individual cell. So I'm just going to repeat that really quickly. Now we can do it the other way as well. We can go sum like that, and we can select the sheet number that we want to pull the number one, so sheet 1, C2, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to down here, I'm going to hold down Shift, and by doing that I've selected all of the sheets, and you can see in the formula bar now at the top it's going sheet 1 to sheet 3, so we're actually summing a range there. Now the last thing to do is add the closing bracket, press Enter, Control Shift Enter, and there we have it. Now you'll note that the numbers changed, and that's only because I've still got those random generated formulas. So every time we press Enter, the numbers will randomly generate again, but I assure you that the formula is working. Now we can drag that down, and as you can see, it's going to sum all of them. Now what I would recommend doing is we can add in another tab divider down like this, so we can say end 3D, something like that. So that way we know exactly where we're going to end the sum range. Now the reason we need to do this is because if we, for example, if we move another sheet in there, it's going to, and we look at the formula again, as you can see, it's summing from sheet 1 to sheet 3. So it's actually summing everything in between this sheet and this sheet. So if we put another sheet in there, it's gonna, and it's got a number in there, it might accidentally pick it up in the formula. So we need to know exactly where the end sheet is so we don't actually move it. And vice versa, we don't want to move this to the end of our workbook because then that's going to push another tab into your 3D array formula. So that's the easiest way of consolidating data. Okay, so that's the easiest way to actually consolidate data, but that only works because all of the templates are exactly the same format. Now, I advise you that when you are setting up a template that you might want to consolidate, for example, a budget process or a financial P&Ls and so forth, make sure that each of the tabs are exactly the same, because this will save you a lot of trouble when you want to consolidate. However, this is the real world, and often we're going to have issues. For example, we might be handing out budget files to our operations team, and when it comes back, they've added in rows, they've deleted columns, and so forth. So we're not always going to have a perfectly unique example. So let's screw this up a little. Let's add in a row here. Let's add in a row here. Let's move this one column to the right, and let's move this one down. Okay, so what do we do in this situation? Because we can't use the 3D sum array because we're going to be linking to a particular cell, so we might link into EBITDA down here, but that's not where EBITDA is over this cell, and we're going to miss it. So there's another function that we can use for imperfect consolidation. We can use the inbuilt consolidate function over here. Under the data ribbon, under data tool subsection, consolidate. Now, how this works is, first of all, we choose which function that we want to consolidate with. For example, we might want to roll up a count, we might want to roll up an average or a sum. So generally we want to do sum, because that's the example we want to do in here, where we want to sum all the revenues and all the cogs and all the wages and all the fixed costs, etc. So after we've chosen the function, we individually add each of the references we want to consolidate. So the first reference we want to consolidate is all of this and all of this. And then all we have to do is add. Now before we do that, there's one thing that we want to note. We want to choose where our labels are going to come from. So we have numbers over here and we have labels over here. Labels are the text and the numbers are the numbers. So where the labels are in the left column, and this is just to tell Excel whether we've got a horizontally table or a vertical table. So left column is correct, and the next thing we want to do is just click add. Now you'll notice that it says the sheet reference and the cell range. Now you can also do this for another Excel workbook. For example, you can consolidate sources from another workbook. I generally would not recommend doing that for the same reason as I advised in previous videos in the advanced course, is that it will create links which can be unstable and create ref errors later on. So try and consolidate it, keep it in the same workbook as much as possible. Okay, so we've created our first reference that we want to consolidate. Now we just want to repeat the step for each of the next few. Now you notice that by switching to the next tab, it's already defaulted to the cell range, and it's saying, is that correct? Well, all we have to do is just increase that and go C7 and add that in. Now you notice that it's defaulted this outside area here. So when we go to the next tab, we can repeat it again. That's fine. Don't worry about the extra blank, because what's going to happen at the end is it's going to basically do a sum if from all of these ranges. So it's going to look for revenue, cogs, wages, fixed, EBITDA. It doesn't matter where it is. It's going to add all of the EBITDAs up and all of the fixed costs up and so forth. That's why it doesn't matter where it is. So let's quickly add all of these sheets in here. Oops, sorry, I missed one over here. So we're going to have to change this cell reference, add that, and then select this, and we're back to the usual. Add. Okay, and so forth until you've selected all of the tabs. Let's assume that we've done that. And the last thing that we're going to do is just choose where we want our output to be. So you can see here that it's saying this cell is selected, that's where our output's going to go. And then we're going to press OK. Now the other thing we can do is create links to source data. So that will actually tell you where the data is coming from. In this situation, I don't really mind. But let's just see what it looks like and paste it over here. Oh, sorry, closed out of the box. But don't worry, you don't lose any of your references, they're all still there. Okay. So let's go back to consolidate and then press OK. And now, as you can see, that all of the data has been linked in. It's all hard coded, so there's no sources currently because we didn't tick that box. Now it doesn't tie into the above number because we didn't select all of the tabs, we missed those two, but it's the exact same process and it can work for imperfect, non-symmetrical, non-identical tabs that you want to consolidate. So that's everything you need to know about consolidating data using a 3D sum array and the inbuilt Excel consolidate function. So 2 ways that you can consolidate data. One must be with symmetrical tabs and the other does not have to be.